So my name's Victoria. I'm talking about the future of human decision making. Stole it from you, no. So I guess to start off, I kind of want us to just reflect about like our own lives and how we make decisions. So like why we choose certain actions. We make decisions, like we make so many decisions every day, every hour. What am I going to eat? Where am I going to go to school? What am I going to wear? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? And in every decision, we are always trying to achieve some sort of reward. We're always trying to maximize some sort of utility. And most often than not, that utility is happiness. So what is going to bring me the most pleasure? What do I get out of this situation? What is taking this action? What benefit does it give me versus taking this action? So how do we currently make decisions? We have perspectives, beliefs, values, and memories. And I'd say that the first three, we can kind of just combine them all into one conglomerate of personal values. So our perspectives, our beliefs, and our values, these are generally things that are spoken over us by an external source, either it be our parents or some sort of authority, our peers, or our environment. These are things that these are things that are spoken over us, that we're taught growing up, that we sort of adapt and mold to, and we take certain pieces and we form our own sense of what is right, what is wrong, what we personally believe in. The second thing here is memories. Now, memories are huge because there are history and there are personal experience. They're the things that we have experienced and the things that we have learned from. And with every memory, there's always some sort of emotion attached to it. There's always some sort of reward and end result that the memory has achieved for us. But our memory is always accurate. So a lot of times, I would say that we don't necessarily remember events accurately, but rather we sort of twist and mold it to fit our narrative of the events that occurred. So this is actually like the first image that popped up on Google Images, and I thought, oh, you just type in human decision making, this shows up. It's a pretty good image, right? So yeah, as I was like looking at this, I realized there was a crucial factor in decision making that wasn't present here. And as I was writing my paper, I completely neglected this one aspect, which totally changed my whole paper. So that one factor was emotions. So, emotions in decision making. It's quite difficult to, convey that, or I guess it's quite difficult for us to believe that our emotions like really do dictate our choices. But if we think about it, our emotions play a huge role in how we decide to go about life. So even the most logical and sound-minded person cannot discredit that his emotions have to do with how he seeks to go about life. Okay, so in a study I found by Antonio Damasio, he is a neuroscientist, and he discovered that with his patients that had a part in their brain that was damaged, that controlled the emotions and the flow and the creation of emotions, that his patients were unable to make decisions, the most basic of decisions. So given 2 plates of food, his patients were unable to decide which plate of food to eat. Given 2 different t-shirts, they were unable to decide which one am I supposed to put on. So emotions are extremely crucial in how we make decisions. And I think, we have the heart with the gun to the brain. A very extreme example of this is definitely crimes of passion. We know in our mind, oh, maybe I shouldn't like off my lover or whatever, someone who screwed me over. But our emotions are a very driving force to how we go about decisions. So even though we know in the long run, maybe I shouldn't kill this person, crimes of passion exist, right? Because our emotions are so directly responsible for how we make decisions. In another study conducted by Oxford University, they found that there was an intuition bias that given two actions that led to the same reward, people often lean to the intuitive choice rather than the non-intuitive choice, which means, let's say university, for example. We take the end goal of going to university, and there's the intuitive choice would be if someone made the decision based on a tour of the campus and they got a good feel of the school, what they liked, what they didn't like. That is the intuitive choice. The non-intuitive choice would be just presenting a whole bunch of facts and making their decision based on the program of study, how well this university ranked, blah, 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 all that stuff. So given two separate choices, an intuitive choice and a non-intuitive choice, there was a reward not related to the goal of university that led to a higher satisfaction in the choice. So given those two choices, people leaned more to their intuition and to their bias. So at a crossroads, given two choices, most people go with their intuition, or they go with their gut. So it's obvious that we don't make decisions based on logic and reasoning as a primary factor, but as a primary factor based on emotions. So what does this have to do with the future of human decision making? So in this course, we talked a lot about AI and machine learning, and one of the machine learnings that was briefly touched upon was reinforcement learning. And in reinforcement learning, we have an agent, the system, or could be, if you relate it to us, the agent would be us. And it has an environment, which is just our surrounding area, the situation that we're put in. And based on whatever action we take, there's a reward and we get to a new state. So in these algorithms, they're able to run these simulations over and over and over again in order to figure out the best course of action to take, in order to figure out the best sort of reward. And these systems are they're very simple in the sense that it's reward driven, it's maximizing that utility, whatever the utility we give it to be. But the key difference between reinforcement learning and our own natural sense of learning is that these systems have the ability to run these simulations over and over and over again without necessarily having to live with the negative result, which we don't have the luxury of doing. So a step that reinforcement learning and machine learning in general is taking to improve this is prediction. So better prediction models and better ability for prediction learning. So we see in the AlphaGo Zero, which was a system that was created with, that was given no instructions on how the game works. They were able to beat within 3 days AlphaGo, which was given human aid and the rules of the game. So we see that within a short period of time of 3 days that it was able to learn the environment, learn the system, and adapt accordingly. So what if we were able to use these same algorithms in the way that we make decisions? So like I said, it's clear that we don't use logic and reasoning in making decisions. So directly implementing these algorithms of just attaining the highest reward is not going to cause us to want to choose the right course of action or the statistically driven course of action. Rather, if machine learning is about trying to mimic human intelligence, then a huge factor of mimicking human intelligence would be to master the art of persuasion. So, in order to persuade, in order to, I guess you would say, manipulate, one has to be willing, the negotiator has to be willing to not just tell whoever they're trying to persuade the goal, the right thing that they ought to do, but they have to be able to show the other person why their idea is more appealing than the latter idea. They have to be able to show that one has a higher reward and that one is emotionally beneficial. So machines as negotiators. So I spotted 3 things that machines would need to be good negotiators: memory, personality, and emotion. So memory, in terms of having the physical hardware and capacity to be able to store large sums of data, store all of our experiences, all of our personalities, our images, the sum of who we are intellectually or within our brain. So also the ability, memory being the ability to learn from steps previously, one previously after another. So we see that in reinforcement learning. When you take an action, it learns which state to go to and then which action, if it yielded a good reward, if it should take it again or if it should not take it again. The second thing is personality. So if machines are going to be negotiators, they need to know our pain points. They need to know what we respond to. So if someone is more geared to the visuals and how they learn versus if someone is auditory, they need to know our pain points. They need to know what we will respond to, what we like, what just our perspectives. And then the third thing they need to know is our emotions. Given a certain action, how did that cause us to feel? Did it cause us to feel good? Did it cause us to feel bad? Did it cause us to feel convicted? So yeah, just examples of how already in the current time, how we've achieved those 3 things. So memory, like I mentioned with AlphaGo Zero, they were able to learn really, really quickly within a short period of time, given no training data, how the system works. They had the hardware was capable of storing all those experiences and all those simulations run, and they were able to learn one step after another. So personality-wise, we can see that with Facebook. Our newsfeed is adapted to what we previously liked, what we previously enjoyed viewing or watching or whatever, and it adapted to show us more of the same. And also, if you are following current trends with the whole London, Cambridge thing, though that wasn't machine learning, that was statistics. And essentially what I'm talking about is statistics. They were able to create virtual personalities of yourselves. So Facebook knows our pain points. Facebook knows our joys. And the third thing is emotion. So Brand24 uses sentiment analysis, which means that it's able to determine the sentiment of text. So given an article or a phrase that says, this guy's sick, it is able to determine based on context whether the article is talking about some guy who's cool or some guy who is ill. So that is able to detect emotion within the context. And then companies such as Affectiva is able to use visual and facial features to determine whether somebody's emotions, whether they're happy, whether they're sad, and whether they're faking joy, so wearing a mask. So what could the future of human decision look like? These are 2 of the main questions. So can AI help us to make better choices? So we've seen how using these algorithms, they know statistically what is the best possible course of action. But based on our response to not respond to data, but rather to emotions and to intuition, it has to be able to use our emotions, our perspectives, and understand our pain points in order to figure out how they are going to persuade us to make the choice that is statistically driven. So if we take the example of crimes of passion, it's clear that within the realms of the rule of law, it's clear that the choice would be to not kill somebody. But of course, our emotions are so powerful and they're so strong. So what would the machine do to persuade us to think otherwise or to act otherwise? It could show the negative response, because negative deterrents are just as strong as positive rewards of a moment of pleasure versus however many years in prison. And as a result, it could make us more moral. Less crimes, less victims, less incarcerations. So that is a more simple example. One of the more complex examples would be high school dropout rates. Now, there's a multitude of factors that go into why kids drop out of high school. A lot of that has to do with how they were raised in the home, the environment. And how you're raised is not necessarily something that you can change. However, given that we can't change how we were brought up, can we change how we act in response to that? You know, so yeah, statistically, it's shown that the more appropriate and the long-term beneficial choice would be to graduate high school in whatever means possible. So can these algorithms come up with methods that are going to show us all possible avenues of how we can graduate high school given our current circumstance, given our current pain points, and given our current situations? And as a result of not finishing high school, a lot of high school dropouts end up in crime, and a lot of those crimes end up being either murders or vehicle crimes. So as a result of making better choices, statistically, we will have less incarcerations, and there will be less, it will be less of an economic burden on society. So yeah, given the choices, can these algorithms allow us to make better choices? Okay, that's my spiel.
Okay, any questions?
So, as you were saying, when humans make decisions, we often let our emotions override logic or reason. So why do you think an individual would let the logic or reason of an AI override their emotion?
Because it wouldn't just be presenting logic, but it would be presenting it in a way that we would respond to. So, like, given certain, so obviously it's not going to tell us you have to graduate. It has to present it to us in a way that we would respond to. So it has to understand, like, based on our memories, what did we, what did we find? How did we learn? Did we learn when our parents yelled at us, or did we learn when our parents walked alongside us and like taught us or failed with us? So in a sense, it's not just presenting data, but it's using what it knows of us to present it to us in a way that is appealing.
Yeah.
Non-conformists are always the targets when it comes to being criminals and stuff like that. So when this change does occur, does that mean that everyone has to get this AI enhancement where they have to get overwritten? And if they do, does that mean that they're criminals right away? No,
Can you
what I'm
rephrase
saying
that?
is, like, later in the future, if we do in fact have AI capable of changing our emotions, does that mean that when we do not conform to this AI, does that mean that we would have to reform law in some way that would make them criminals?
So my basis for this is that AI is a tool, and that's all it will be. So the idea of nonconformity, I shied away from how this would be implemented, because I don't know if it's going to be implemented like neurologically, or if it's going to be like an application that we use. But I don't see it as being a mandate or being mandatory whatsoever. I see it as an add-on to however we live our lives, something, like a tool that we use to make our lives easier. So it's essentially a report of statistics, but it presents it to us in a way that hopefully we will feel convicted to choose that.
do you think that central act of choosing, like an AI or some algorithm suggesting, based on what they know about us, suggesting the decisions that we could make, do you think that'll ever feel like an infringement on free will? And do you think that'll matter in the future to us?
In the sense that the choice is being taken away.
Yeah, as in like if an AI is giving us all the decisions, is it ever going to feel like we aren't involved in that process ourselves? Like it knows us fully, it can give us our decisions, but we're picking essentially from a list that it's giving us. Do you think that'll matter?
I think the choice of I think that's a really good question. However, because I say it's a tool, I think ultimately we will have the choice whether or not to decide the machine's choice or not, whether it's a strong enough and compelling argument. So I think if it always is, then I guess we could lose the the responsibility of choosing ourselves, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think the resources will ever exist to have this as a worldwide thing, or do you think this is just like in wealthy regions of Canada where we have this kind of systems? How do you see it?
I actually think this could be used anywhere, because hardware's fairly cheap as of now, and this isn't some big piece of machinery. Essentially, it's just an application. So wherever there's electricity, and yeah.
Thanks very much. Lots to think about. I think when you use the example of crimes of passion as an example of bad decision making, I think what one of the qualities it has is being impulsive. That one has an intuitive response and is in danger of acting before considering it further. My question is around the interface. So how do you think that AI might alert us when we're in danger of an impulsive decision? How will it take in the information? How will we be connected to it? Will it just be like a beep on our phone, or how will it intervene in those dangerous moments, which often have the feature of being just a few seconds or moments long?
So initially what drew me to this topic was when I think it was Osmar who came and did a presentation, and he had the cap on the human head that allowed the people with prosthetics to respond to, just by thinking that they could raise their hand. So I feel like that could be one avenue where some kind of implant. And in terms of how it's going to, are we going to get a beep on our phone? I think the most simple way to implement something like this would be with constraints to the law. So whenever someone was breaking the law. And I think just because I feel like there are some places where the law is very, it determines where you live, right? So I feel like an initial implementation of this could be just basic Charter of Human Rights.
So do you think that in the future, because you talked about how AI gives a rational decision without emotion, do you think in the future these algorithms will also exhibit emotion in their decision process, but different from humans? Do you think that they're able to control their emotion, not let their emotion take over the rational aspect of decision making? And if they can't differentiate between emotion and logic, are they still reliable?
So I know we're in a course about the singularity. However, I'm not a huge believer in the singularity. And I don't know. I don't think it's likely that machines will be able to exhibit emotions in the way that we do. I don't know if they'll be able to feel. So with that in mind, I don't see them as anything more than a tool. So I don't think they'd be able to exhibit Yeah, emotions. But that's not to say that they can't be abused, right? As any technology can be abused.
Do you think that if this technology were to become a reality, it would negate the need for like human counselors or advisors? Like if you were going to your faculty office to try and choose courses?
I definitely think so. I think that in terms of being able, like especially prediction, being able to predict what courses are going to be filled up, which ones you should take first, I think it would definitely alleviate that responsibility. And I know being a student, advisors are very terrible.
Okay, great, thank you very much.